What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And this one is about the life review process, but from a particular YouTube channel called The Alchemist. Somebody sent me this video and said, "Hey, I should take a look at it." And I did take a look at it, and I've extracted three little excerpts that I wanted to highlight and talk about. So I've seen this YouTube channel before. It's really cool. She has like 399,000 subscribers, so big following. And this video is about, it's called How to Pass the Life Review. And when I first saw that title, I thought, is this buying into the whole life review process as something that we actually can pass or supposed to pass? And, I was a little not sure about diving in, but then I realized what she is talking about is she's not necessarily buying into the hype of the administered life review, if you will, from purported archons, where it's sort of used as a manipulation tool. She's not saying that you need to go and pass it and this is how you do it. And she's saying effectively that life reviews are a real thing that have been hijacked, or there's an overlay placed over them, or there's a synthetic version that has been manufactured to manipulate. But ultimately, the idea of a life review, or the notion of a life review as a productive tool, is a real thing. And actually, this resonates with things that the remote viewing groups like Intuitive Underground and things that other folks have said as well, that a lot of what we see in what we consider here to be this trap, this cycle that we seem to be having trouble escaping, is we're seeing things that are real, that are truly part of the life cycle, but they have been hijacked. And that's kind of what we're experiencing. And so she's saying in this video, she's talking about the what a true life review does for you, kind of how it's been hijacked, why and hence why we have the memory wipes, why we have the amnesia. And she's giving real practical tools on how to get out of a life review effectively, not really pass it, but get out of it if you do indeed sense that it is synthetic, as it is an overlay meant to confuse you and manipulate you. So without further ado, let's get into the mix. We're going to start off with this quick clip. Again, I only got 3 clips. This quick clip is talking about what she terms a synthetic life review.
That does not mean that all life review processes after death are organic. Because what you will see, a constant theme that I teach, is the organic and the synthetic, and how we confuse the two, or sometimes we throw out all of the organic simply because there's something engineered or synthetic. There is a growing awareness within this age about just how much humanity has been under certain oppressive spiritual control systems. And because of that, all of the organic processes that we go through also have like an alternate bizarro land version of it, or what I call a synthetic version of it. If you want to understand what synthetic means, it simply means something that is engineered to look natural and organic. And yet it is mimicking that, and yet not fully organic. So it is like an engineered layer in order to mimic the organic or natural processes of something. And because of that, there's a growing awareness also about how this gets carried over into the astral realm or into just other spiritual realms in general. And so when we're thinking about the life review process after death, and if that is all bad and all scary or all good, we need to understand first that the life review process itself, regardless of whether it's after death or before death, or induced or through a near-death experience, or however it comes out, that itself is a process that has helped people gain a lot of awareness, expanded frame of exactly who they are beyond their human identity.
So coming back to this idea, basically saying that there is value in I guess, the real authentic version of the life review. However, it appears as though what we're being subjected to is this overlay, this synthetic version of the life review. Again, coupled with the amnesia, we're meant to use it as a tool to learn, to heal traumas. But are you really learning if then after you go through it, you are again thrown into amnesia? That's the question. But then on the flip side, how are you able to go out and have experiences and make mistakes if maybe you have too much knowledge? Could be a question, or infinite knowledge obviously would be tricky. But maybe it's not infinite knowledge. Maybe how it generally works, or how it's supposed to work naturally, is you have no amnesia and you do accrue information, but it's not as though you're connected to all knowledge of all time, and so there's still room to grow and learn. And then the life reviews would have a lot more meaning, right? You wouldn't be wiped, and the learning process would be as it should be. You're growing. You're not you're accumulating information and knowledge. You're not just learning, erasing, learning, erasing. Like, that's kind of, you're stuck in a loop. It's Groundhog's Day. Anyways, so she's talking about this distinction between the synthetic and the real, and it seems to me that what we generally are dealing with when we exit this life, at least as what it appears from the accounts that we've been studying thus far, that it's pretty much going to be a synthetic one, unless we can get out of this little matrix area, in this matrix zone of the astral or beyond or whatnot. So something to be mindful of and to be wary. Now, if we do have to be wary and we are wondering, are these authentic? Probably not. Well, what do we do? How do we get out of and not partake in this synthetic life review, which is positioned as a learning tool, but in reality is simply a manipulation tool? Well, here's her answer.
You do not have to go through a life review process if you don't want to. And if you don't want to go through a life review process because you don't trust whatever's happening in that life review, you may not trust that it's an actual, genuine, organic life review. You might view it as a synthetic overlay version of a life review. You do not have to. You actually don't have to do anything. When you're processing something, even in this life, you're processing it for your expansion. We aren't just here because we are these slaves. Even though humanity itself is under a very strong spell that's casted on it for spiritual amnesia, we ourselves are a multidimensional being. So we're here to learn lessons, we're here to create, we're here to expand. And yet at the same time, there's a duality taking place. And that duality is we are in need of a spiritual awakening because of how deep this amnesia has run and for how long. And so with that, we have mainly lost the full and complete connection and awareness that we are to our inner being, which is source. We are source consciousness, and no being can tell you that you have to do something or go through something. And so what's vital to know about the life review process itself is that you do not have to go through a life review process, and you can simply assert that in whichever way.
So again, she talks about this idea. Yeah, you can effectively refuse. I think she even gives words at some point and just say, I do not submit, or I refuse. And she says you actually do it more telepathically. And she gives some different examples. But yeah, I mean, as far as I can see, the way, and again, the way that she's setting it up, which is not unique, other people said the same thing, that we're actually here originally for this growth process, for this learning process. And it was meant to be a natural process, but it has effectively been hijacked. Whether you want to think about it as an invasion of sorts, and then the whole process has been hijacked and manipulated, or however that exactly looks, it is meant to be a natural process. And maybe that's why, that's the brilliance of the system, is that it mimics something that we intrinsically feel is natural and normal, but then it puts this overlay on it, it puts a spin on it, takes the value away, and just uses the manipulative element to keep us entrapped in this cyclic existence. But yeah, I find that interesting that other people have said the same thing, that because the life review at its core, it makes sense, but for the amnesia, but for the memory wipe. Because how you learn if you keep getting memory wiped? That's not learning. That's just doing and repeating. Actually, that's the definition of isn't that what they say is the definition of insanity? You keep doing the same thing without and expecting a different result along those lines. I mean, not exactly, but it's kind of like that. You're just doing it. You're forgetting everything. You're making probably the same mistakes over and over. Yeah. Okay. Last clip here. This is what she says if you indeed encounter forms that are maybe trying to put the life review on you or force it upon you, or you feel like there's some deception or something happening. She gives words to say to basically get these entities to show what they really are.
process. If you encounter any beings in the etheric realm and you are not sure if they are trying to deceive you with the appearance that they take on, you can clearly command, "Show me your true form." It can be hard for our mind to grasp just how sovereign we really are, simply because we have been programmed to believe that we have to give our power away to external authority. But we are eternal source, and we do not have to give our power away to anything. This truth has been corrupted through ancient social engineering that was set up by both religious and spiritual systems. This truth was intentionally made to sound disobedient and arrogant by the very structures that
Siphon humanity, again, take our energy. I think she's basically talking about this whole idea of Loosh. But look, ultimately, she's saying ways that we can get these entities to show what they really are, to understand what's really happening. But I think the larger point is, this just goes back to the idea of the importance of discernment, also the idea of trusting ourselves, right? I think when I was having my interview with Darius, one thing we talked about is like, well, if you're going to be paranoid of everybody, who do you trust? You can't. And I think his point was, you can't trust anybody. You're just backing yourself back into a corner. You're not trusting anybody. And then you have literally, there's nowhere to go. You're stuck. So you got to trust some people. And I think her response to that would be, well, you can always trust yourself. Look inward. Look to the divine spark within you. You don't necessarily have to look to the external. You don't have to look to somebody to give you a helping hand. Look to yourself. You already have the power. You just forgotten. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, the more we keep strengthening our ability of discernment, which I'm really starting to think it's a sense that we can keep strengthening. I'm going to talk about that in a subsequent video, but as long as we keep strengthening our discernment, that's going to also help us see through the nonsense, see through the BS of entities trying to manipulate us. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It doesn't matter how much more information these entities might have, how much more access to information they may have, aka even you could call it intelligence, because a lie is a lie. The truth is easy to explain, to understand, but a lie, there's always going to be some sort of cracks. That's just not going to fully make sense. There's going to be something out of alignment, out of whack. And we're going to be able to figure it out as long as our discernment is nice and strong. And I think the way to keep it strong, going back to the law of resonance, the concept of phronesis, is to live a life chock full of integrity and honesty. And the more we try and do that, and there's just constant way, I'm constantly trying to think about, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, by the way. Look, I'm just, we're all going to be imperfect in this world. It's kind of, it's difficult to just have everything be your truest intention out there, right? Sometimes you just don't want to hurt people's feelings or different things like that. But I think if we keep striving towards that to the best of our abilities and keep trying to just have an alignment to truth. And this isn't to appease some higher creator. This isn't to appease each other. This isn't to be a function. I'm not even saying it from that perspective of be a good member of society. You should do it for yourself. That's what the point is here. You do it for yourself because it will empower and embolden yourself, and it will strengthen your own ability in terms of discernment. So anyways, interesting video. I feel like I was able to extract a couple of fascinating nuggets that relate to where we go after we pass on. And especially, what has a lot to do with that is this life review process. Very cool video from The Alchemist. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you would like me to check out and review next. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.